and welcome everyone.
Okay, adequate notice of the special meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the local source, Cranford Chronicle, and Star Ledger on March 11, 2026. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the Board of Education Business Office, Harding and Brearley Schools, and the Kenilworth Borough Hall, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ganell, can we please have roll call?
Viner? Here. Crincoli?
Here.
David? Habather? Here. Verdina? Ladati? Here. Panici?
Here.
Tiers?
Here.
Zimmerman. We have quorum.
Thank you.
Okay. The purpose of this evening's meeting is to review the annual school budget for the fiscal year 26-27 and approve the tentative budget to be submitted to the Executive County Superintendent by the statutory deadline of March 27th, 2026. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a good day. And Mr. Ganell and I are here tonight to present the 26-27 annual school budget. As you know, earlier this month on March 9th, we had our previous board meeting where he and I discussed the impending school budget fiscal cliff and the potential for an April vote. The point of that meeting presentation was to sound an alarm. We have very big dreams and grand plans for our students and our schools here in Kenilworth, and the community has the same expectations for big ideas and big results as they articulated in our strategic planning process earlier this past winter. The March 9th meeting was a laying of the groundwork for the reality that the current budget structure doesn't support our needs, let alone our dreams. But tonight, I'm not going to tell you about all the wonderful things we cannot do. Tonight, we're going to talk to you about what this budget does do. So first, I'm going to go over our budget goals and refresh on that, talk about the school experience, and then I'm going to pass over the bulk of the presentation to Mr. Ganella, who's going to go into the finer details of the numbers. So that's our agenda for our presentation tonight. So I do want to take you back to October. We presented these goals to the public and the board. Our goals were sixfold. We wanted to prioritize the needs and requests that have the greatest impact on curriculum instruction, assessment, and achievement. That was number one, of course. We also wanted to prioritize the requests that support all district goals. We wanted to develop athletic and co-curricular opportunities for the David Brearley Middle School, since that is a new school with new leadership. We committed to zero-based budgeting. We also wanted to prioritize our pre-K staffing to make sure that we were honoring our promises to the community. And then our other goal was to minimize the tax impact by maximizing the use of tax dollars. So those were our 6 budget goals that we went into this whole process with back in October, and I'm proud to say that we're in the process of achieving those 6 goals. Despite all of the limitations and conditions placed upon us, we are proud that we are in process of executing those goals. So what does this school budget actually do? I want to share with you the school experience. It does the following things. It does honor our commitment to full-day, 4-year-old pre-K as a priority. We committed to the community regarding that with our referendum. The community supported us, and we want to support the community moving forward with this budget despite its constraints. So we're happy about that. We maintain the instructional, co-curricular, and athletic programming currently in placement within our district. So we're not making cuts to those programs, and I'm proud of that. It affords a modest expansion of middle school co-curricular programming. Again, that was one of our budget goals, and we want to make sure we're supporting our middle school students with clubs, activities, athletics, and we're able to do that on a modest basis with this budget. This budget does shift resources from supplies to personnel. You'll see Mr. Ganella reference that in his numbers. We did have to do some shifting around. Obviously personnel is our biggest expense, as is for everyone. So we had to make some shifts there. With that said, it does enable us to pursue some deeper efficiencies in scheduling. We're looking forward to that. where we want to prioritize personnel and staffing with our scheduling process with the intent to potentially hire a librarian and potentially hire an additional classroom teacher to ease some of the burden that our teachers are experiencing at all 3 schools. So that is a goal of ours, but we believe that this budget enables that to happen. And then lastly, this budget ensures the district remains in compliance in terms of certification, special education, NJDOE and NJQSAC requirements, which we have to maintain at all times. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Ganella, who's going to go into some more of the details of our budget. Before I do, any questions about what I presented? Great, thank you. Mr. Ganella, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. So tonight's budget presentation is going to focus a little more on the technical aspects of the submission of the budget. So statutorily, we're required to submit the budget to the Executive County Superintendent by Friday, March 27th. That timeline was changed due to the new governor coming in, delayed our state aid figures, which resulted in trickled down to this state being adjusted. So tonight, I'm going to be focusing a little bit on the technical aspects of that. Later, when we adopt the budget officially at the public hearing in April, we'll be getting more into the weeds of the numbers and the reasons why and some of the benefits of what we're trying to do at least, and some of the dangers. So first, I'd like to review our state aid. As you can see, our state aid did go up a little bit, $19,310, which was a very nice, pleasant surprise. We were potentially anticipating a $652,000 loss of equalization aid, but the state did promise that they were going to continue to honor the 3% plus or minus increase or decrease in state aid. So we did fall within that range. So that was a good thing. But you'll see that there's a shift in the composition of the aids. So you see the equalization aid actually went up, which was surprising to me. And the categorical aids, such as special education, transportation, and security aid, all went down, which is a little bit of a concern. If this funding formula to remain intact, this would be concerning to me, but hopefully it will not. Typically, the equalization aid is based on property wealth and income. So to see that increase was very surprising to me. And the categorical aids, such as special education, transportation, and security, is based on enrollment. Our enrollment hasn't significantly changed at all. So why we had the decreases in those and the increases in the equalization of aid, I'm just convinced that this was the way the state committed to staying within that 3 plus, 3 minus range. So it really doesn't really mean much. I would have preferred to see the reduction in equalization aid and increases in the categorical aid, to be honest with you, but hopefully the state recognizes that the current funding formula remains a systemic challenge to be needs-based funding. So it's got to change. To show you how out of kilter it is, we lost $803,000 in special education aid, but we spend over $9 million in special education. And that's a state responsibility, so to speak. Expenditures, you'll see here that the fixed cost drivers, we got double-digit increases in health benefits, almost over 20% increase in our health benefits. Other insurances, such as our property liability, is going up, and utilities are going up. So some of those fixed costs are intense, as well as the labor costs, the general labor costs, including health benefits, but also our obligations that are outlined in the collective bargaining agreement are also fixed cost drivers that we have to overcome. As Mr. Davies alluded, we had some operational trade-offs. to fund some of the mandated state special education and benefits. Appropriations to facilities, supplies, textbooks have been reduced, and you can see that in this chart right here. The core challenge is the cost of business is outpacing revenue growth, and the cap and the tax levy cap and our board's commitment to try to keep the tax levy relatively low is challenging in today's expenditure landscape. So when you get to revenues, you can see here that the tax levy proposed 3.75%, utilizing the statutory adjustments. I'll be going into more depth on the statutory adjustments a little later, which allowed us to go from the 2% increase to the 3.75% increase. We are appropriating a significant amount of reserves to bridge that gap this year. $2.5 million specifically will be appropriated from our surplus to bridge that gap. And we'll talk about the dangers of that a little bit later. And then the good news, if there's any good news in this, is that the debt service is becoming stabilized. So if you recall, back in 23-24, we appropriated $2 million from our capital reserve to offset the tax levy increase due to the referendum. And then in 24-25, we appropriated $474,000 for that same purpose. And then last year, we didn't have any more capital reserve, so that's when we saw that larger hit the tax levy. The good news is this year it's stabilized, and you'll see it clearer a little bit later on. And that stabilization will happen from now until 2029-30, when the 2016 bond expires. At that time, that comes off the books, and you'll see either a substantial decrease in the tax debt service tax levy, or the board has opportunities to expand it in different ways. And there are a lot of different opportunities that the board can pursue at that time. Give me a call. I'll be on the beach, and maybe we could discuss it together. So where are we today? There's two charts here to provide a complete and transparent fiscal picture. We're looking at a budget through two distinct lenses here. The first is a year-to-year comparative, unadjusted chart that presents our budget using unadjusted figures. It offers the more direct apples-to-apples view of how successive reductions in state aid have physically impacted our district spending power and operational capacity over years. So both myself and Mr. Davies spoke about how we've shifted some of those monies. You can see that here in phase one, which is the leadership budgets, which is the stuff, the supplies, that type of budget drivers is down about $175,000, and all other categories are up. So we shifted money from the one area to the other area, the salaries and the school business administrator documentation. And then the second chart adjusts the current year for prior year encumbrances. This alignment is not only a requirement of our state submission, but also ensures our reporting remains consistent with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. The view reflects our actual legal and financial commitments as they move across fiscal years. By reviewing both of these, we can see the raw impact of the loss of aid while maintaining the fiscal rigor required by state oversight. Adequacy. So I'm going to talk a little more deeper tonight about adequacy, and probably won't be bringing this up at the public hearing. I'll touch upon it maybe. But adequacy is the central component of the state's funding formula. A statutory calculation intended to define the minimum funding level necessary to provide a thorough and efficient education to our students. As the data illustrates, our proposed budget remains significantly below the state's own adequacy targets. This gap represents more than just a numerical shortfall. It is a clear indicator that our current resources are stretched thin relative to the state's defined standards for educational success. While we're maximizing every dollar available, we are operating within the formula adequacy gap that fails to meet the calculated needs of our district. So many of our local districts are at or above adequacy. So that gap for us, if you were to take that number of $3.8 million and divide it by the number of students we have, it's a significant amount of money that we could be providing to our students. The next requirement that I'm going to review is the minimum tax levy. To understand our current funding status, we must look at the School Funding Reform Act, or SFRA. This formula dictates the school district's fair share is determined by a combination of personal income, equalization property valuations, and student demographics. If you recall, when I was talking about equalization aid, that's what this is all about, okay? But the math is clear here, the demographic shift, because our community has seen rising personal income and elevated property valuations. The state formula assumes we have a higher capacity to self-fund. The equalization gap, as our local fair share requirement increases, our equalization aid is systematically reduced. That's why I was surprised to see the increase in equalization aid this year. The challenge we face is that while the state expects us to contribute more based on these rising values, we are simultaneously constrained by the 2% tax levy cap, leaving us with a widening gap between what the state says we should raise and what we are legally able to raise. You will also note that the subtle but significant change in the formula. The state now utilizes a 3-year average for equalized valuations and district income, which was a benefit. That was a plus. That was an adjustment that they made last year. I think it was last year. While intended to smooth out our volatility in a rising market like ours, it effectively locks in the higher wealth metrics, even as we navigate immediate budget pressures. Tax levy calculation, we talked about this a little bit when we had our discussions about the fiscal cliff, how you have your pre-adjusted tax levy, or your last year's tax levy. You're allowed to increase it by 2%, but then you're allowed to take certain statutory adjustments for health care or increased enrollments, and then there's some that we really don't apply to us. So we would be eligible if really for the health care and enrollment. Our enrollment is pretty stable, so we did not see any adjustments this year. Health benefits, though, however, we did see a significant increase in our health benefits. So we were eligible for this health care adjustment, which gave us $868,000 additional ability to increase the tax levy beyond the 2%. So that brings us to bank cap. So you take our prior year's budget, increase it by the 2%, then you take the cap adjustment of $868,000 for the health benefits, and that comes with what our tax levy cap could be. Okay, we didn't even go up all the way up to that level. We could have spent $24,703,000, but our tax levy is currently at $24,243,000, or roughly $460,000 difference. That $460,000, a state allows us, not real money, it allows us to bank that cap and allow us to use it next year if needed, or actually we could use it for the next 3 years, over the next 3 years. So that's a plus, because next year, depending on unless the funding formula is adjusted, we talked about appropriation of $2.5 million for free balance. That's going to be a challenge, so this money may be needed. Okay, and beyond that, we have very little ability to generate bank cap. I don't advocate going for 20% increases in health benefits every year just to get a tax levy cap waiver. So, it allows you to do it, but you're also paying 20% more in your health benefits, which impacts not only the taxpayers, but also impacts our employees because they do contribute to their benefits. Recapitulation of balances. So each category is defined by three key regulatory guidelines: accumulation, maximum thresholds, and usage restrictions. So you have unassigned free balance, which is basically known as surplus, a restricted legal reserve, which is known as excess surplus, restricted capital reserve, restricted maintenance reserve, emergency reserve, and debt service reserve. So each one of these has a different methodology of how they can accumulate the money, what the maximums can be, and what the usage restrictions are. So as we mentioned earlier, we're utilizing all of our excess surplus, which is the $2,497,092. We're appropriating $2,908 from our unassigned or surplus, which will leave us $644,000, which is just under 2% surplus. So that is a plus compared to what we've had in the past. We've depleted our unassigned balances, and we've got them really low. So that's a plus there. Restricted capital reserve. Last year we appropriated a significant amount to do some construction work. And this year there's not that significant need, especially after completing all the referendum projects that we've done. So we're still remaining with $234,000 in that account. There are opportunities in the future to continue to fund that up to the amount that's in your long-range facility plan. But that's if everything goes well, maybe you can do that, but I think we need to make sure that we're able to operate our operating budget before we start funding capital reserve at this point. Our facilities are in relatively good shape. If anything, you would probably put it into the next category, which is maintenance reserve. As I mentioned earlier, we decreased our operating budget in some of the facilities. Some of it's to offset here, where we're appropriating $73,000 from maintenance reserve. So our maintenance reserve is going from $350,000 down to $277,000. And our emergency reserve, we have designated that. It's at its max of $250,000. But that's our rainy day fund, so to speak, if we were to get some type of catastrophic special needs students moving to the district during the middle of the year. That it gives us the ability to not have to cut programs mid-year. We'd probably tap that if there's no other alternatives within the operating budget to assume that obligation, we'd probably tap that in the future. Okay? So that brings us to use of reserves and excess surplus. So as I mentioned earlier, we're appropriating $2.5 million from unassigned and excess surplus, and $73,000 from maintenance reserve. So these are short-term fixes, especially the excess surplus. We're basically funding recurring costs with one-time savings. It's a short-term fix. So using reserves to supplement recurring expenses is high-risk fiscal strategy. It creates a structural deficit. I've been talking about this for several years now, meaning we are funding ongoing costs with one-time revenues. Once these funds are spent, they do not automatically refill. If we continue to rely on balance to balance the budget, we face that fiscal cliff that we've been talking about, where our reserves are exhausted, but our expenses remain. This path is unsustainable long-term and underscores the urgent need for more equitable state aid formula. So this is something we've been talking about, but it's one of these situations where do you bite the bullet this year and not provide the education that you potentially can? We've had this discussion. This has been lengthy discussions at our finance committee. If you could get one more year out of providing a decent education, you do it. And you deal with the cards that you're dealt this year, and next year, if the cards are a little different, you deal with those. So the specific projects that we're looking to do under Fund 12 is $62,700 worth of classroom renovations and $10,300 worth of gym floor resurfacing. Traditionally, the gym floor resurfacing was always in the operating budget, but we took it out and we're going to use maintenance reserve this year. The classroom renovations are going to be in-house projects, and they're targeted over both Harding and Burley schools. And this is above and beyond what we approved last month, which was the toilet room additions and renovations to the preschool classrooms over at Harding. So the tax levy increase here, as we mentioned earlier, it's a 3.75% increase on the current expense tax levy. The debt service, as we mentioned, did see a decrease in the tax levy of $6,568. So that softened the overall tax levy to 3.3% increase. And the tax impact on your average house assessed at $888 is $206.77. And remember, assessed value is not market value. So if you're interested in looking at what your assessed value is, there's the website? What was the website we were looking at last week?
The Kenilworth website.
It's the Kenilworth website. Yeah, you could look on the Kenilworth website what your house is assessed at, or you can look at that little green card you usually get at home too. So it's not the market value. So there's usually a substantial difference between the market value of your home and the assessed value. Okay. So tonight's resolution. We are not using any banked cap. We're generating $450,000 worth of bank cap for future use. Approves withdrawals from maintenance reserve of $73,000. Approves capital projects of $73,000. Approves the submission of the budget to the executive county superintendent for his technical review. And our ability to advertise it to the public for the public hearing on April 29th, and sets the tentative tax levy as outlined here. Okay. So what's next? Tonight we'll submit the budget by the deadline of March 27th. We'll go back, press the budget button tonight, and get that into the county superintendent. Between now and the 28th of April, we'll continue to review the budget, focusing on efficiencies and savings, and maybe some reallocations of what we're trying to do. And then April 29th, we'll have the public hearing at 7 o'clock in this room, where we will hopefully adopt the budget for the 26-27 school year. Are there any questions?
I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've done a really good job moving things around and balancing everything out. I just have a question about the healthcare cost increase. So since it's at 22%, that automatically makes us eligible for that tax
Adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Is there any possibility that there could be like an out-of-cycle negotiation with insurance companies prior to their, the teacher's negotiation contract date, so that you could see if there's some way that we could reduce that cost?
Well, we do annually market our book of business, so to speak. So we're going through that process right now. We don't have the final figures. because insurance companies don't like to commit at this point. So our renewal is July 1st. Okay, so if you're an insurance company, you want to get the most current data on experience on the book of business that they're looking at before they're committing to a 20% raise or a 20% increase or a 10% increase. Because, between now and July, there might be a lot of things going on from a health benefits or health perspective from our employees. So they don't like to forecast that. That's why we anticipate this sometime in early May, we will get the renewal. Horizon has told us this is their number because they see that. But we're currently looking at Cigna, AmeriHealth, another state, a SHIF. So we are, I think Oxford too. So we are actively, through our broker, marketing our book of business. Regarding off cycle, we have a July 1st renewal. We can't do much about that. And regarding the level of benefits, we have to, unless we go back to the bargaining table, we have to provide, even if we do go from what our current carrier, which is Horizon, go to, let's say, Cigna, we have to provide equal or better coverage on every single comparator. And some of the veteran teachers here have gone through this multiple times over. We've moved. We've gone from Cigna to AmeriHealth to Horizon back to Oxford. Now we're with Horizon again. So we've done this multiple times, and it's a commitment that the board has that they have to provide that equal or better coverage if we make that move.
So does that mean, like, on July 1st, when you get those other numbers, you would is that the open enrollment period? Do you have that in the school district?
Yes, that's in June.
Oh, okay, got it, okay.
One thing, we met with the broker probably for an entire finance meeting one night, going over options, going over companies, going over the why of the entire increase. So it's not just like we just said, just go run with it. So we did meet with them for quite a long time. And that's pretty much it. We do that every year. Comes in. Every year. But we really grilled him on what we could do, what could we get better at, what could save us some money. So it's unfortunate. It's the biggest hike that I've ever had, I think, in the school.
And we're not the only
history.
ones. He was saying that all of his clients are.
All the 70, all the 70 districts that they handle. 70 districts he handles are under this umbrella that we're
Every
under.
single one of them was.
Aetna was an option too?
What?
Aetna?
Aetna is we're seeking a proposal from Aetna.
Okay.
And I'm asking because we just went through it as well. So the way that, and this sounds exactly the way that we do it just now, which is October. Yours sounds like it's in July. So
Right.
when that time period came, Horizon was able to give us a very small change, which balanced it out for us as the employee, and also balanced it out for the institution. So hopefully that's what happens. Who
Now
knows?
we're not in
Just
the state health
wondering.
benefits plan.
Yeah, but I mean,
They got really hit, and on top of them, I think it's plus 30% increases, and on top of that, it was out of the fiscal year. So their renewals come in January. So the state health benefits told them last year this time, budget 15% or whatever it was, and it came back at 30%.
Right.
So they had 6 months of that gap. That's why you saw a lot of those districts struggling this fiscal year trying to bridge that gap, because they couldn't even, if they wanted to, they didn't have that healthcare adjustment within their budget, because that budget was struck last year. So it's a mess. And does anyone remember what Tony said was the driving force behind the large increases?
Are we allowed to say that?
yeah, he said
Ozempic.
it. G-
Ozempic is-
GLP-1.
Ozempic is the big killer.
Wegovy and the yes.
Yeah.
It's up.
And everyone, I'm not positive on this, but everyone is able for the educators plan, correct? 'Cause I know
Everyone's
that
eligible.
saved me no matter what program we
Yes,
had. That
yes.
saved me as an
Yes.
educator.
So what does that mean?
It's we can choose between what we pay out of pocket. We can stick with the district, or we can move to the educators plan.
Well, it's still they're all district programs.
Yeah,
They're not.
it's
It's
just
not
cheaper.
moving to the state health
Yeah.
benefits plan. So it's
Okay.
just a different. It's just a different. We have
What you
we
pay
have
into
the
it. Yep.
the PPO plan. We have the New Jersey Educator Health Plan. We
Uh-huh.
have a POS plan. We have a
Yes, yes.
a high deductible plan, and then we have an EPO plan. So we have 5 different plans that people could choose on,
They choose what
depending
they
on
want,
what
yeah.
their
Yeah.
their
All right, thanks.
needs
You
are.
said our Ozempic usage for this whole insurance block was up 140% since the year before.
It should be like based on who's using it and let their costs go up, right?
Well,
You'd
that's
think,
what you
but
do when you're all tied in.
Not
you
going
get-
up to the
you know,
district.
we're
Not
a-
everyone in the district,
Well,
you
we're in
know.
a small district. You get 2 or 3 people that get some serious injuries or serious illnesses.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
spikes up. So that's why we're
Absolutely.
glad, when we were individual, it used to spike our
More,
numbers
right.
real, by ourselves. 3 or 4 people get sick, it spikes up our severity. And that really cost us a lot of money in the
Yeah.
past. With the group, there's more people in it, so those little spikes don't happen as much, but it's not
Yeah.
much you can do.
Okay.
The only other question I had was, so we're gonna use the reserve monies, and we'll still have more or less $500,000 put aside. So if we continue that way for the next few years until 2030, when the referendum falls off, does that put us up in, will we be in a hopefully positive reserve, much more positive reserve place
Well-
than just the $500,000, or, so I'm trying to
It's
understand
hard
if
to
this is just
generate, it's
moving or
hard to
we're.
generate that
Okay.
much reserve. So, I mean, last year, we stopped spending around February. This year, we stopped spending around December. So basically, I sent a letter to the administrator saying, if it's not in your budget, number one, don't expect me to sign a purchase order. And number two, if it's absolutely not needed, if it wasn't in your budget and it's not needed, I'm not gonna sign it either. So, that's one way how we did generate some of this reserve from last year going into this year. So, trying to cushion next year's blow by that, but there's just so many years you could do that.
Sure.
And because as you can see, we have $175,000 less from the stuff that we buy that we're not going to be able to do also next year. So that's going to be a challenge. Regarding the debt dropping off in 2930, it's a different fund. It's
Okay.
Fund 30. I mean, it's Fund 40. I'm sorry, it's Fund 40. It's your debt service fund. So your current expense can't increase more than the 2%. Okay? What I'm saying is that's an opportunity for the board to look at the overall tax rate, and if we were to go to a April vote, okay, it's an opportunity to say, okay, the debt service tax levy is dropping by $500,000. Maybe we do put out a question for $300,000 to hire a teacher, or reduce class size, or increase our basic skills, or do something innovative.
Okay.
That's how you would do that. It's not, you're kind of not mixing apples and oranges there,
Okay.
because they are different funds. It's not automatically that comes off, because one's a current expense fund and one's a debt service fund. But the overall tax rate could be beneficial only with the second question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That helps a lot, thanks.
Questions?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
hard job.
Can I make a motion at this time?
Yeah, I was just gonna let him sit, because he's gotta read it.
Well, he doesn't know what the
Skipping
motion
over
is. He
minutes
doesn't-
to get to
He doesn't
it.
even know what my motion's gonna be
Okay.
yet.
Yes,
Yeah, we gotta open it to
I
the
didn't want him
public,
to, I
yeah.
wanted to give him a second.
Open up
as
to the
well.
public.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. The motion is to open up the public, to open up comments to the public. Mr. Ganello, when you're ready, if you could please read.
Okay, public
Thank you.
comment is now accepted. The Board of Education sets the limit for the public to speak at the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education for extended time pursuant to Board of Education Bylaw 0167. Please be reminded that while members of the public may speak on personnel matters during public comment, the Board of Education is legally prohibited from discussing individual personnel issues in public session unless the employee at issue has requested a public discussion. The board's role is to set policy and ensure the effective operation of our schools. While personnel recommendations are an exclusive responsibility of the superintendent of schools, the board reviews and acts on those recommendations in accordance with the state law and district policy, but does not initiate or manage individual staffing decisions. Okay. What?
Want to read that next one?
No, it's okay. Oh, please record your, please record your, as you approach the podium, please state your name and address prior to making your comments. Thank you, thank you.
Don't we
Sean.
have to vote on this for the scorecard? Just,
Yes, we do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. You can do all, you're in favor. You can do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes, okay. Ayes have it, motion's carried. Any public comment at this time? Anything? No?
motion to close?
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberthur, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. All those in favor of closing the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion's carried. The meeting is now closed to the public. Mr. Ganella, are you prepared to have a roll call on the following resolution?
Yes, this is the resolution. The only resolution on this evening's agenda is to adopt the budget, tentative budget for submission to the Executive County Superintendent. Don't have to vote on it separately because it is separate. Okay. Mr. Biner,
Yes.
Crincoli,
Yes.
Haberthur,
Yes.
Ladati,
Yes.
Tiers,
Yes.
Panici.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Mr. Ganella, do we have a need to go into closed?
We do
session?
not.
Okay, so at this point, can I
Motion
have?
to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Haberthur, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion's carried. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.